Comic-Con podcast may contain my shows, comic books, and if you're lucky, then... So without further ado... Hey super friends, it's Neil and welcome to a brand new episode of the Get Your Comic Con podcast. I am joined by Aaron and Michael and we're going to do a deep dive into something a little special this week. If you watched our live look ahead into 2026 episode from a couple of weeks ago, you will know that Aaron was picking up a film which is due to release in UK cinemas on, February the... Aaron, jump in!
13th.
Thank you. And that is Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up. It's a film which has had an interesting journey to the screen. It released in the US actually back in March of last year, so the UK is playing catch up a little bit. But we were so excited to hear you be so excited about it that I managed to chase down a couple of extra copies of the film for Michael and I to catch up and watch it. And we are going to be chatting all about it in this Looney Tunes Wacky Bonkers episode. But first, how are you guys doing? How are you? Aaron, I'm coming to you. I need to remember to point at someone first. Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad we get to do a whole episode on Looney Tunes. Like the fact that this is just a thing, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm a very happy man.
How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. I'm really excited. Before the start of this week, I'd never had a screener, and by the end of this week, I'd had two. So it's been a really cool week. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Well, I guess that's sort of a little behind the scenes development for us. We've had a bunch of new people joining the team in the last week or so, and that means that I'm trying to be like super official at handing out assignments to everyone. And the thing that surprised me was everyone really wants to work, and so suddenly I was overloaded with I'm organizing interviews, I'm organizing screeners, and I'm organizing screenings for people, and I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. But a lot of that came your way.
Yeah, it did. I got quite a lot, but it was of my own doing. I'm excited to do it. And I think
I have always warned friends that at some point I am going to completely absorb you. So so Matt, I met at, I actually met him at a signing at Forbidden Planet for the first Shazam movie. We were just stood in the queue next to each other for a wristband at 7:00 on like a Saturday morning and got chatting. And I was like, one day I'm going to absorb you. He now obviously does film reviews and does lots of horror stuff and anime stuff. Both of you have also been just absorbed. I just drag people into my bubble of craziness. But thank you.
It's a fun bubble to be a part of.
Yeah.
And now look at us.
I know. Also, I have to say, I'm loving the Don Broco t-shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I thought I'd be... Well, I do. The annoying thing is I do have a couple of Looney Tunes t-shirts, but I thought, nah, screw it. Don Broco.
Yeah, I was looking to see if I had anything Looney Tunes, and annoyingly, I do not, which is really sad. Otherwise, I would have. So I've just gone generic Batman. I do think that one of our little aims for this year is that when I go, "How are you guys doing?" we figure out who speaks first without me having to point it out, so that we sound like we actually know what we're doing.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, that might take a bit of while. That might take a while.
Ever the slick production, as rich we have always been, but. In talking about doing a special episode about Looney Tunes, we discovered one other kind of Looney Tunes related factoid, which is that this year, the original Space Jam movie is turning 20 years old, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of a good place to go into some Looney Tunes memories and memories around Space Jam. I can't believe that was 1996. That was the year I went to secondary school. So I'm sure everyone has seen it by now. But it basically, how do you describe Space Jam? Stars Michael Jordan and the cast of Looney Tunes. It's got basketball. It's got that classic kind of Roger Rabbit, part animated, part live action zaniness to it. My kind of standout memory of it releasing is just how much it completely took over pop culture that year. It was so zeitgeisty. It was insane. What are your kind of early memories of it?
It's a weird one for me because unfortunately it came out the year before I was born, but it's always something that's kind of existed just in the back of my head because I remember, like, as a kid in the early 2000s, even though it was still like 10 years old by that point, probably that
Mm,
I still remember like Burger King toys with Space Jam stuff all on it
yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. I think Back in Action, Looney Tunes Back in Action kind of helped with that, but Space Jam always kind of felt relevant, even though it was 1996. It was a weird one.
It was definitely one of those films that I think had promotional tie-ins everywhere.
Hmm.
Like you say, like Burger King toys, Happy Meal toys.
Hmm.
I'm sure it's twigging in the back of my mind about like Pogs or Tazos,
Yes. Yeah. I think
and
I used
just
to have some of them.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm sure I had some as well, and just it being everywhere, like sticker books, trading cards, like everything that you would have in the 90s around a big
Hmm.
release. Michael,
Hmm.
what's your first memories of it?
Well, it came out the year I was born, so it's one of them films that
So
I've
you remember
always,
going to the cinema that year to see it, obviously.
of course, yeah, I was at the press screening. No, I'm kidding. Um, it's one of them films that I've always been aware of, and I remember growing up, people talking about how cool the mixture of like animation and live action was, because obviously
Yeah,
it wasn't really ever done before outside of stuff like Roger Rabbit, like it wasn't
yeah,
mainstream. Um, so yeah, as a kid, I remember watching it because I grew up with like the Looney Tunes. I used to watch it every like Saturday morning, and when I was old enough, I remember yeah sitting and watching it, and it was just so mind blowing. I just remember how cool it was, and it probably hasn't aged the way I remember it, but like them playing
No.
basketball felt so realistic. I thought there was actually doing it. I'm sure if I go back and watch it now, I might have a different opinion, but yeah, it just felt so iconic, and it still is iconic.
yeah, it is. And I can't believe it took them so long to make a sequel to it as well, given how
Hmm.
successful it was. So it released in, it had its premiere in LA on November the 10th, 1996, and then released in cinemas on November the 15th. It only caught, this is a shocker, and this tells you about kind of technology and kind of filmmaking in the 90s. It cost 80 million to make, which I'm sure then was very, very expensive, but
Hmm.
now it's like
Yeah.
peanuts compared to a blockbuster.
Hmm.
Made Although then only made 250 million worldwide, which is actually not a huge amount either, but I
Hmm.
think was
No.
considered one of the most successful films of that year. Um, 19, I can't, I'm going to have to quickly look what were the most successful movies of 1996. I haven't actually seen the sequel, I never got around to the,
No.
was it 2021 when that
Maybe
came out? I
not.
never got around to it.
I did. Let me just
I,
refresh.
the sequel was one of those films where like everyone was tearing it apart to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good if I missed it. And this is, I feel ashamed saying that considering, like Michael, I loved Looney Tunes growing up as a kid, and I feel like it
Yeah.
should be a thing I would watch, but everyone was like, you know, slating it, and I'm like, yeah, I think I might give it a pass. Even the trailer didn't really win me over, but
I
that the
remember
fact that,
watching it.
yeah,
So 1996, crazy year. I'm going to do these in like a reverse order. So Space Jam, this is domestic US. So Space
mm,
Jam was the 15th biggest movie of the year, having grossed 93 million in the US.
mm,
Number 14, Star Trek First Contact, 92
Hmm.
million, one of the greatest films of all time. Number 13, Hunchback of Notre Dame, 100 million. Number 12 was something called Phenomenon. 11 was Eraser. 10 was First Wives Club. Number 9, 101 Dalmatians, 136 million.
nice.
Number
Mhm.
8, A Time to Kill. Number 7, The Birdcage. Oh, great film.
Hey.
124 million. Comedy gold. It's about to get like, just get ready for this. So number 6 is a film called Ransom.
Yeah,
Number 5 with 128.8 million, Nutty Professor.
a classic.
Number 4 with 134 million, The Rock. Number
Mm,
3, 180.9 million, The First Mission Impossible.
mm,
Number 2 with 241.7 million, Twister. And then number 1 with 306.1 million, Independence Day. Independence Day, Twister, Mission Impossible, Nutty
mm,
Professor, 101 Dalmatians, Space Jam. What Jerry Maguire was that year, and the Cable Guy. Also,
yeah.
the original 12 Monkeys film,
I,
Jingle All the Way, was that year too. Dragonheart, Jumanji,
And
Toy Story,
Scream.
Romeo and Juliet. That's a
yeah,
massive. That's
I'm looking at the list of 1996 films, and I'm like, Why wasn't I born a year early?
What a year! Matilda, Muppet
Scream.
Treasure Island,
Train
Treated Like
Spotting.
Cats and Dogs,
Oh my
Father of the
god.
Bride Part 2, Mars Attacks, Harriet the Spy, Dusk Till Dawn. Wow, that's a massive year.
Muppet Treasure Island.
Iconic
Sorry,
year.
sorry, I got sidetracked by Muppet Treasure Island.
Really surprising is Scream, which must have come out towards the end. Oh, it came out on the 20th of December. So Scream was the 74th movie for the year. It went on to gross 103 million, but only grossed 24 million in the year.
Nice.
What a massive year. So Space
Yeah.
Jam kind of, it sounds like Space Jam maybe kind of struggled to cut through as a kind of original thing against so many massive, massive films. It does amaze me that we didn't have more live action spliced with animation movies based out on the kind of success of things like Roger Rabbit. When you think about how much Roger Rabbit is just a massive cultural moment that people still talk about now, this didn't seem to quite have the same impact, even though people love it and have such a like romantic history with it. I feel like I need to go back and watch it. I don't know when I last watched it.
Well, I thought for a long time I'd seen it when I was a kid. Apparently not. I must have only seen like bits and pieces of it on TV. So I only watched it for the first time in its entirety. I think last when did it say I watched it? November, like a couple years ago. Going off of what you were saying, it has not aged particularly well because it does feel like a product of the 90s.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I bet.
I know that was the one thing I kind of took away from it, whereas like I came for the Looney Tunes characters. The best thing about the film is the Looney Tunes characters. Everything else just feels like a typical 90s film.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny you say that because I thought the sequel kind of did the same thing. It was like all of the humans got in the way of the Looney Tunes, and you was kind of there like,
interesting.
just get out the way, like let them do their thing because they're the best part of it. And when the humans got in the way, you were just like, oh, please move.
Yeah,
it's funny. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what my earliest memory of Looney Tunes is. It's the kind of thing that I think if you're in a certain generation, absolutely everyone grew up with it, just watching it constantly, whether that is Saturday morning cartoons on like BBC or ITV, or whether you were lucky enough to have like Sky TV and have Cartoon Network, where essentially there's like a constant stream of it every single day. But I just feel like almost, I guess in a way, it's almost like, you know, how even if you don't read comic books, you are aware of sort of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man in that way that there's just so much merchandise and they break through zeitgeist so much that everyone's just aware of it, whether you've seen anything with them in or not. I feel like certain characters like Daffy, like Bugs, Tasmanian Devil for sure, are just so ingrained in pop culture in general that you know who they are even if you've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me because like I know there are certain things that I still love now that I know where I got that from in terms of like my taste. Like for example, Muppets and Disney, I got that from my mum, and then there are certain things I got from my dad. But Looney Tunes is that one thing where like there was a Sky channel called Boomerang, which is the one that you meant, where they just had it on constant repeat. And I think it was watching that, plus I also had a DVD which was like the best of Bugs Bunny skits, where I just watched those on repeat because I found them absolutely hilarious as a kid, and they're still bloody funny now. And I think that was just something that, like, again, my brain kind of always knew, like you said, they always knew it existed, and I've just always taken it for granted in terms of like, yes, this is really funny. But it's not really come from anywhere. Like, it's not come from my mum, it's not come from my dad. It's just something that I've enjoyed from as far back as I can remember.
Oh, and I always remember you guys probably never came across this because it left the UK probably around the time of this film, if not ever so slightly afterwards. But the Warner Brothers store, so same as the Disney store, but purely Warner Brothers.
My mum talks about that a lot, and I see pictures of it, and I'm like, I wish that was still a thing.
Honestly, so this is one of my big memories from when I was a kid. Was we used to drive from home every now and then to Chester for shopping because it was just somewhere slightly different, and it was like just under an hour's drive. And Chester had a Warner Brothers store, and at one point they had one of Michael Keaton's Batman costumes in there, which obviously founding memory as a child.
Yeah.
But it's just the kind of merch that you would get if you went to like the Warner Brothers studio tour, but in a shop on the high street. But they also would have things like animation cells, which I could never afford because, like hundreds of pounds. But I just remember them always having so much Looney Tunes stuff. And I did have quite a lot of Looney Tunes merch when I was a kid, which all came from that store. So I feel like Looney Tunes is kind of wrapped up in some really nostalgic, like 90s history for me, which is really nice and kind of quite a warm feeling, which means instantly when you're like, hey, there's a new Looney Tunes movie, I'm like, yeah, can I watch that now, please?
Yep. Completely agree.
I guess is the perfect segue into talking about Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up, which, yes, releasing in UK and Irish cinemas from February 13th, 2026, because I've now got it on my screen in front of me. Synopsis. I'm going to go with the synopsis, Aaron, that you put in your review, which is Porky Pig and Daffy Duck are the Earth's only hope when facing the threat of alien invasion. I guess before we talk about the story of this, it's probably worth talking about some of the history of it because it has an interesting journey to the screen, which I did kind of talk about, allude to at the beginning. So some of you, particularly if you're listening in the US or watching, you might know this film as The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Released in 2020, originally shown at several festivals in 2024 and early 2025. Produced by Warner Brothers Animation, directed by Pete Brangart. It's his featured directorial debut. It's a spin-off of the Looney Tunes cartoon series, which he had also developed. So the history of it is that in 2019, he was working on the Looney Tunes cartoons and was asked for an idea for a feature film. He came up with this idea, which is very sci-fi B-movie, which is something we'll talk about, I think, with the kind of premise and the way this film is marketed, because the posters are wonderful. It was announced in 2021, and it was originally due for release on HBO Max. So it was kind of envisioned as one of those streaming movies as HBO Max was kind of blowing up and becoming the thing that it is now. It was also envisioned as being part of the Acme Night block on Cartoon Network in the US. It premiered at the Annecy International Film Festival on June the 11th, 2024, and then ended up having a very limited theatrical run in the US that December, which was then funded by Ketchup Entertainment. In the meantime, Warner Brothers has gone through the restructure where it's bought out by Discovery and things have changed. This film kind of falls into a similar bucket as to what happened with films like Batgirl and also the Coyote versus Acme, isn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of it for a second. In that it very much ended up in a state of flux where they weren't sure what was going to happen with it or if it would ever see the light of day. Thankfully, it has. And it is now releasing in UK cinemas this February. Interesting how it almost didn't end up seeing the light of day, though.
I think because the thing that baffles me the most about this, I think, because I do allude to this in my review a little bit, but the fact that this is the first like fully animated Looney Tunes film ever, and the fact that they've kind of dropped the ball on it a bit is the thing that baffles me the most. Like, you'd think they would make a big song and dance about this. Coyote versus Acme, again, we don't really know because it hasn't come out yet. And that is going back to that sort of Space Jam half live action, half animated thing. But with this, you'd think they'd be more of a thing about it. But the fact that they've not really quite known what to do with it outside of it playing those festivals in 2024, and then you get to 2025, and even the US release, I've seen a lot of videos of like US film reviewers kind of going, what are they even doing with this film? Is it getting a cinema release? Is it not? And then it just kind of got dumped in cinemas for about a week or so. It's a bit baffling, especially considering how like beloved of a brand it is as well. I know it's really confusing.
So big thank you to Vertigo Entertainment, who are the ones who picked it up and are pushing it in the UK. I'm glad it's getting a cinema release here. I think I will try and make the effort to give it some box office by going out and catching it if I can. I'm trying to decide where to start because it's not like I would warn about spoilers, but it's not like there's a huge amount that we can kind of spoil in talking about it because it's a very kind of straight up story. But I'm like, do we want to talk about the animation first because it's so beautiful? Do I want to talk about the story? I don't know. Where's a good place to start with this?
I feel like
on film.
I was going to say, I feel like the animation is good place to start, because then we could naturally go into the jokes and then the story, and
Yeah,
then
true.
because they kind of all blend into one a little bit.
I
Yeah.
love how super crisp and clear and modern it
Mm,
looks, but at the same time, it has everything about it from like a classic Looney Tunes cartoon. Like
mm,
moments
Yeah.
where it goes like hyper realistic or hyper stylized, and then the moments where
mm,
it's a little bit more loony, for want of a better term. Like it feels really fluid, like
mm,
all the way through it. Like every moment almost feels so considered into what's the best way to bring this to life on screen.
mm,
Yeah, I agree. I liked the parts where it would flip animation style. Like there's one
mm,
sequence in particular where it changed, and that just made me burst out laughing because it was so
mm,
Looney Tunes and it was so like on brand, and it just kind of took me by surprise, and it really did
mm,
make me laugh a lot. And even when it does switch animation styles, that other option is so beautiful as well. Like it's not a cop
mm.
out, or it's still
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
beautiful to look at. So
That's the
that really
thing.
made me laugh.
It feels so considered and so much.
Mm,
It just like I think I hadn't anticipated it also being somewhat adult in that there's some
mm,
jokes in there that I think would fly over the top of kids' heads. So, like in the beginning, where we're sort of flashing through their life up to the point where we reach the present day,
mm.
um, when when Farmer Jim just decides to turn and walk
Yeah,
into the lake and then just
yeah,
disappear into the sunset, we were watching it. We're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, Farmer Jim's dead."
yeah,
I'm like,
E-
it's so
even
funny.
even that moment kind of threw me off, because that was the first point I realized, oh, they're just gonna, you know, change animation style just
Yeah.
because they want to. And that's the other thing that I really like, is that, like Michael said, they're not just changing animation styles for the sake of it. They're doing it
No, not
because
at
of
all.
a punchline or a joke, or
Yeah.
they're doing it for a reason. And the
Yeah.
fact that,
yeah,
like, 1 minute, like, he's a very static character that doesn't move, and then the
Yeah.
next minute perfectly turns around, hair blowing in the wind with a fully animated face, and then it
Yeah.
cuts the wide shot. He's just hopping.
The hopping
yeah,
is
I love
so
it.
funny. I genuinely thought he was gonna move in that way that they do where they have, like, really floppy kinda legs. So the fact that
Yeah,
it was like somebody was sort of clicking and dragging him was
yeah.
just so funny, and I was just like, "That's not." It wasn't even like it was a joke that they had set up to make a punchline.
No.
It's like there are loads of visual punchlines that come out, like, completely out of
Mm,
nowhere to just literally have you wetting yourself laughing because you just don't anticipate that that's what they're going to do. Um,
no.
Farmer Jim was quite spectacular. He had quite the jawline and quite the like flowing mane of hair. It's just
yeah.
like, what is going on? So funny.
Oh
It was
dear.
so fun. That
Even
like, so you go.
no, you go. I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that like initial opening scene where like he's like the father figure and he's giving them
Mm,
advice, and then like he's really serious up until the point
mm,
where he starts hopping away and then just like
yeah.
disappears into the sunset. Like that initial first like few minutes just took me completely off guard
Oh yeah,
because I
Mm,
kind of forgot what film I was watching. I was like, oh,
yeah,
I love the Looney Tunes, and then in that
mm,
moment I was like, oh yeah, great. The humor here is going to be a little bit crackers,
yeah.
so
mm,
it kind of like reset my expectation. I was like, okay, I'm in.
I mean, I haven't watched any of the cartoons recently, so any series that have been on recently. So I don't know what the series is like that this director had worked on, and maybe there's probably a precedent for it in the work that he'd already done. So maybe it hits a little bit differently if you have watched his show. But honestly,
mm,
I was just like, if you wanted to completely pull the rug out from underneath the audience in terms of what they're
mm,
going to be expecting, then that first sequence does it just
yeah.
so perfectly. And
Mm,
then
It's so good.
it's just like it's almost like the ball is rolling, and then the momentum that it picks up from there, where
mm,
you're in the present day, and you're then picking up with them trying to live their lives in this house.
mm,
I had a bit of an up moment when suddenly the farmhouse is surrounded by all of these other buildings. It's like, how
mm,
long were they there for?
Yeah,
um, but again, it just seems to be like another way that the film evidences that it does everything for a very specific reason, like showing the
mm,
passing of time or showing how much the world around them has just moved on and they haven't because they're still in this house.
mm,
And there's a great balance of feeling the nostalgia of it, the comedy of it, but also still having a like they lost their dad and they're just trying
Mm.
to function
Yeah.
and live in this house sort of feeling to it too. There's a lot of emotion wrapped up in it, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, speaking of nostalgia and 90s, what I found really interesting and I've not seen in a long time. Do you know back in the day when they used to have like a different animation style in a cartoon for something gross?
Yep.
That
Mm.
kind of popped up a lot when they're like
Oh,
when they're
yeah.
walking around the house and been like, that's where the mold is and that's where this is.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
really
yeah.
that made me chuckle because I was like, oh, I've not seen that in a
It
while because the texture of it's so different.
Yeah,
it's
quite
like
kind of Ren and Stimpy Nickelodeon style
I
where it
I
would
was
be
gonna
like,
say
oh,
SpongeBob, yeah, where, like,
yes.
someone like, when
Yeah.
Squidward, like, smells something really horrible, and it just cuts this really high detailed,
Yeah.
like, close-up of
Yeah.
his face. Yeah.
Yeah, very SpongeBob. But yeah, I've not seen that in a long time since I was a kid,
Yeah.
Mm,
and it made me immediately think of like the 90s and like early
mm,
2000s cartoons. I was like, oh, I've not seen this in a while, and that joke was quite funny.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then I think when you move into the present day and they're having this home inspection,
mm,
Mrs. Gretch, she's an interesting character. Love that it kind of, how do I want to say this? Looney Tunes, I think, has always had a very specific way of drawing the human characters,
mm,
and I wondered coming into this whether some of that might be slightly sanitized for a modern audience, particularly because I feel like female characters were always drawn in a very specific way, and I don't know how a modern audience would take that. But when
yeah,
she squeezes out of that car with her big bum,
mm,
I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay. We haven't sanitized. Like everything is still as it was. Like that
mm,
sensibility is still here. We have not changed our minds on how we're going to represent characters whatsoever. She
mm.
was so fun as well. I would love to have seen more of her, and I like that she did keep popping up every now and then. But she was interesting. Um, and
I
that
love
house. Go on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I love the fact that, certain like, even when a joke like, because the one thing I was worried about is kind of what you were saying, but kind of the other end of the spectrum where it's like, are they gonna make, like, the jokes too modernish,
Yep.
in a sense? And then I think there's only one instance where it leans into that, where Daffy's twerking on a phone,
yeah,
which even then, that very quickly gets, like, cut down just by the fact that he gets cancelled from it, which I thought was a hilarious way to, like, yes, here's a modern joke, but then we're very quickly gonna, like, throw it to the side because we wanna get back to the regular Looney Tunes stuff, which is one thing I was worried about, kind of the
Yeah.
opposite of the Miss Gretchen thing, but I thought it balanced it quite nicely.
Yeah, it did. There was that moment as well where I can't remember exactly what they're doing. Oh, is it when they're trying to prepare the house and doing a
Mm,
really terrible job of it?
mm.
And they're like, "Oh, we need to get rid of all the cracks in the pavement," and then
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just
yeah. That
Daffy with his arse out, and then he's like, "Oh, sorry." Oh, oh yeah. Honestly, I was a kid again watching it, which is why I think I loved it so
Mm,
much. Um, But I also love the simplicity of it because that's the opposite end of the scale now is that you overcomplicate things or you tell this massively complex story and it just
mm,
ends up not working very well.
mm,
Particularly if you're trying to do the kind of humor that you would get in Looney Tunes. But the actual premise of the film is so simple and yet
mm,
has so much to it at the same time that it just
mm,
works really, really well.
Yeah, I think what I liked about it was it felt like a really long episode of the Looney Tunes, but you
Yeah.
didn't feel like it had overstayed its welcome. It felt
mm,
really well thought out and it was paced really well. What made it so fun for me was like the commentary that was really adult, like about conspiracy theories
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like there was some like adultness in there, but like it wasn't in your face. It was really
No,
funny and
not at
really
all.
well thought out.
I think it
mm,
would still work really well for kids as much as it would work well for adults as well. It's clear that they know that there's going to be people like us who grew up with it who come back and watch it anyway, and then
mm,
kids today who are going to watch it, or people like us who've got kids who are going to be like, right, I used to love this. You're going to sit down and
Yeah.
watch it, and there's something for everyone in it in that respect. I think.
Yeah,
mm,
it walks that line really well and balances both,
Yeah,
which
it
I
does.
appreciated.
mm,
So in terms of that modern day storyline, Daffy and Porky fail a home inspection when Mrs. Gretch points out a gigantic hole in their roof, which has been caused by the UFO. They've only got 10 days to repair the house before it would be completely condemned. But they need money in order to do that, so they get a job at the local factory. And that's where they meet Petunia Pig, and it's the Goody Gum Factory. And it leads us to this strange revelation about this chewing gum that then has some I don't want to spoil the whole thing, has some alien connections, which then spin off on a wild tangent, or spinning off on an even more wild tangent as this film
Yeah.
spirals out of control towards the very, very end. I want to be really careful because I don't want to spoil the journey. Somebody jump in. What do we think about that storyline?
I thought it worked for the most part. I think it's a weird one in the sense, like, considering the payoff and the fact that there is like a pull the rug from under you twist that comes in like the later half, which
Yeah.
then flips the context of everything you thought was happening.
Yeah.
I think it works better the more you think about it. But in that initial like first half, again, I'm having the same issue as you. It's like, what do we say and what don't we say? I think it works in terms of setting up that initial tone.
Yeah.
I think the best way I describe it, because I'd seen someone else describe it this, and I was like, that is the perfect way to describe it, without going into too much detail, is that like it's half Invasion of the Body Snatchers and then half Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. I have some more references to add to that, which I think is a really good
Go for it.
segue. It reminded me a little bit of Jurassic Park because there's a sequence where they've been chased by something and they're having to hide in like a kitchen. If you know
Yeah.
which scene I'm on about.
Yeah.
And it also reminded me of, do you know the Simpsons episode where the people are sick and they're coughing in the boxes and then they open it in Springfield and then everybody gets infected?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that mixed with the comedy of The Emperor's New Groove. I thought the villain and the sidekick had a very Yzma and Kronk energy about them.
Yeah, interesting. That is a very good point.
I loved it.
Yeah.
There's a specific scene which I won't spoil, but the villain and the sidekick are trying to conjure up something. And there's an extended sequence where the sidekick is falling down a flight of stairs or like breaking a load of glasses. That just took me out. It just was so Yzma and Kronk. I was absolutely dying laughing. It was so good.
And then the title is obviously a reference to The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is a very, very classic kind of B-movie sci-fi horror, which they've been quite open in saying that B-movies were sort of the inspiration, and that's where you get these really cool posters that feel so nostalgic. I do think they've done an amazing job on the poster artwork for this film as well, and it does have a lot of those kind of nods to it as well. And I'm sure there's loads that go over my head from films that I've not seen. But I just love it. And some of the stuff where you see people in Grandview reacting to what's happening, like things that are approaching the city from space. It's just, I love it. It just has so much of everything that I love of classic sci-fi in it.
Yeah, there was one joke near the end, because I like the fact that it plays on all of these aspects. Like, it's not necessarily ripping on one specific genre or anything.
Exactly.
Kind of taking what it wants from different things and just making them work. Like that whole scene with the creature that Michael was alluding to is like the design of that creature alone is kind of horrific a little bit. For a Looney Tunes thing, but also the way that plays out is like surprisingly quite suspenseful. Like the humor kind of gets dragged out a little bit for a really tense scene, and then once that's over, we're then straight back into humor again. But there's a joke near the back end of the film. I don't think it gives away any spoilers, but like there's a bit where they realize that Daffy Duck's the only solution to this problem. And then they bring back like a classic Looney Tunes style joke where like the silhouette of a person in the cinema pops up and he's like, really? The Duck? Who greenlit this? And I love the fact that they just occasionally bring back these old classic Looney Tunes things while still just, I know, let's take this from this sci-fi film or this horror film or what the hell we want. But it still feels like Looney Tunes at the end of the day. It's a weird one to explain if you haven't seen the film, but it's a weird mashup of a lot of things that just work.
It is meta at moments. I'd forgotten about that joke. I love that. Yeah, where the guy gets up and he's just like, "Who greenlit this?
You go with the duck, really?"
Yeah. One of the twists, I'm going to dare to go there, that really made me laugh. I won't give it the full context, but the reveal of Boba Tea.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
I did not see that coming whatsoever. When they're talking about precious resources, I don't know why, I genuinely thought it was going to end up being like a fart joke or something.
Mm.
And so then when it then reveals that it's like boba tea, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That is very
That's
modern. Yeah,
that's another
Yeah.
example similar to like Daffy twerking is like another example of like, yeah, let's take what would be a modern joke, but like
yeah,
it all kind of works. We're not going too far to like let's reference all the new things that we can. It's
yeah,
very much like, yeah, this just works because it's his reason. The reason for him being obsessed with boba tea is kind of stupid. So let's
yeah.
just shove it in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like suddenly like Daffy's got an iPhone and an Apple
Yeah.
Watch, and everyone's like on like laptops and watching flat screen
Mm,
TVs or anything like that. They don't do any of that. They
mm,
really do keep all of the classic elements exactly as they were, and then
mm,
just drop in these little nuggets of things that are more modern.
mm,
I was just looking at the cast list just to see if
mm,
there were any names in there that I would recognize that would surprise me, but there aren't really any. It's very low key and very just right people for the right role.
mm.
Um, what do we think of the invader as the sort of villain of the film, as it were, the way they're being pitched?
I'm gonna try and my best to not spoil what I think, but I thought the invader was going to be a different character from the Looney Tunes
Mm,
world. There's a specific character that I thought it was alluding to. Like when you find out
yeah.
what's happening, but you don't know
Yep.
who the villain is, I was like, oh, I bet this is a really iconic character from that world. And when it turned out it was something else, I was surprised. But I
Yeah,
liked the character. I thought it was good.
Mm.
yeah. What about you, Aaron?
I think, actually, going off of what Michael said, there is one thing I've seen. It's like the one critique that people do have, and is understandable, is that like I people kind of wish there were more variety of like Looney Tunes characters in there,
Yeah,
but at the same time, I
Yeah.
do like the fact this is rather self-contained and it is just focusing on Daffy and Porky. I like the fact that it is self-contained. Plus, Petunia is like a lovely addition to the group. I
yeah,
think the Invader
She's
works for
great.
the context because I can't. The one that you're alluding to, Michael, I can't imagine them being obsessed with boba tea.
No.
I'm sorry. That would just not. So I can imagine that. I can imagine why they've gone with this new one. One, because it probably fits the B movie style they're going for, but also for the sake of the the bubblegum related premise they're going for as
yeah,
well. Again,
Yeah.
yeah, the one you're thinking of and most people are thinking of would make sense, but again, it kind of makes sense as well to just create a new one for the sake of the film. I think he worked fine, and
Yeah.
like he does have his own funny moments,
yeah,
purely out of him just being so frustrated at everything going wrong. Like there's a bit during a montage where they're like they're correcting what his plan, and he just grabs the scientist he's possessed and starts smacking him against the screen for no reason other than the fact that he's like really annoyed, and it's like a blink and you'll miss it thing. But that just made me laugh because I'm like, he's so frustrated. He's just going to take his henchman and just beat the living daylights out of him.
similar to you guys. Yeah, I also thought I wonder if they're going to reveal that this is somebody else from this world.
Mm,
And it did make me think just for a few minutes early on in the film about who else might show up. But I agree with what you just said, Aaron. I think it
mm,
works really well that it gives these two, and then Petunia to a certain degree, um, a kind of vehicle of their own that isn't massively reliant on the rest of the Looney Tunes world, and
mm,
it's just a fun story based on them. I'd love to see more films like this using characters
mm,
from Looney Tunes. I hope
Yeah.
that despite the fact it's had this slightly unorthodox journey to the screen, that hasn't put them
mm,
off doing more in this world. One thing I didn't look up before we started recording this was how well it had reviewed.
mm,
Um, on Rotten Tomatoes, according to the Wikipedia write-up, it is a score of 86% with 111 reviews, so that's pretty positive across the board.
mm,
Well.
Restoring much of Looney Tunes' quintessential charm with a daffy dose of high energy and inventive gags, The Day the Earth Blew Up goes to show that these iconic characters remain evergreen fun. So that's pretty good.
mm,
The audience score on CinemaScore gave the average grade of B plus on an A to F scale. Those surveyed at PostTrack gave it an 89% overall score, 72% saying they would definitely recommend. Okay, so it seems like it,
Hmm.
it went down well with the American audiences when they got to see it. So I don't think they've said anything about doing any more or whether they're developing any more, but certainly I think this film has proven that there's a market for it.
Yeah.
there's like an appetite for that kind of film again.
Yeah, definitely.
I think also it's this is something I kind of put at the end of my review, but I wanted to kind of reiterate it here in this because I think it is important. Is that like I said at the start, yes, this is the first fully animated Looney Tunes
Yeah.
film, but also we just don't get 2D animated films that often nowadays.
No,
A
I
lot of them
know.
are like, yeah, we get a fair amount of stop motion,
Yeah,
but a lot of it is CG. So the fact that this is getting a theatrical release in the first place is a bit of a rarity,
yeah,
which is why like I want as many people to go and see this in the cinema
yeah,
as possible, so
yeah.
we can get more of it, whether it be Looney Tunes or anything. Because I've even heard that like Disney are contemplating possibly going back to 2D animation, which would
I
be
have seen that in the news too, yeah.
yeah, that would be absolutely brilliant if they do.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just the fact that this film exists in the way that it does on its own feels quite special, and I think we
Yeah,
need to take don't let the opportunity be wasted is what I'm basically trying to say is like yes
yeah,
this film existing as it is in the way that it does and giving how funny it is, we need to kind of make the most of it.
yeah. Could not agree more with you on that one. That's
Me
a really
too.
beautiful way, I think, to bring us to probably just rounding up final thoughts on this film. Um, Aaron, I'm going to come to you last because you have done the written review for this.
Yep.
I think my final thought on it is you've just summed it up really well. 2D animation, so beautiful, and I would love to see this on the big screen because I think it deserves it just because of the amount of care and attention and love that's gone into it. So fun, so nostalgic, and taking me back to my childhood and watching Looney Tunes cartoons, but then still some modern sensibilities to it. Just a wonderful, funny, unexpected film is kind of my final thought on it. Michael, what about you?
I'd agree with everything you've said and what Aaron said before. I think films like this feel like they don't get made anymore. So to see a
Yeah,
film like 2D and just the humor, I think the comedy here is something that you don't get a lot anymore.
it's so special.
Um, yeah, like that Looney Tunes zany, like comedic tone is something that we've lost, and I think you can see like the Muppets coming back, and the Miss Piggy movie they're making, and this coming
Yes.
back. You can tell that the world wants more of this like
Mm,
crazy comedic escapism. So I think
mm.
yeah, it's just really well done, and it's a great hour and a bit. So yeah, I would agree and
Yeah.
recommend everyone go watch it because it's great.
And so, yeah, we owe our thanks to Aaron for encouraging us to watch this film by talking about it again, as I was saying earlier on our 2026 look ahead episode. So, if you want to read his review, I'm gonna do some technology, guys. Ready? Ha ha! So up here, no, here. Damn it! Up here, there is a QR code that you can scan right now, which will take you straight to Aaron's review. Give us your final thoughts on this film.
I just end up reiterating everything I've just said, and everything we've all said, but it's short, snappy, to the point. It's a ton of fun. It knows. I think the beauty with it is that it knows exactly what it is and doesn't try to do anything more than that. It just kind of
Yeah,
revels in Looney Tunes logic and being ridiculously over the top in the best way possible. And I feel like this seems like the sort of thing that seems like a stereotypical quote, but like it's perfect for Looney Tunes fans and new audiences. um, but it very much is in the sense that like if you like really over the top classic animation style of Looney Tunes with that wacky comedy, you get that, but you also get a little bit of like classic sci-fi homages and modern humor that helps balance it out. So there is literally a bit of everything. There's a bit of everything for everyone in this film. And just please go and see it because we want more 2D films. We just don't
yeah,
get them, and it would be nice to see more of them in the cinema.
it would. That's kind of making me wonder whether we need to do either something on the website or fill in one of our gaps in the podcast schedule on talking about some of our favorite 2D animated movies. because there are some wonderful examples out there. I feel like you only really see them now coming out of Japan with anime. We need more Western ones
Yeah.
because that's a talent that we've lost in cinema. But we can lament that another day, I think.
For context, I would be so down for that episode, even if it's just an episode of me gushing about the Emperor's New Groove for like 40
Yeah,
minutes.
me too.
That is one of my favorite films of all time.
Or me gushing about Batman Mask of the Phantasm and it not getting a theatrical release in the UK when it got a theatrical release in the US, and it taking nearly 30 years for me to get to see it in the cinema.
I would also gush about that too. That is a brilliant film.
Wonderful film. Yeah. So that about wraps us up for this episode. If you have been lucky enough to already see The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, or Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up, then please, just wherever you are watching or listening to this, drop us a comment and let us know what you thought of this film. Do you agree with all of our wonderful, overly romantic nostalgia of 2D animation and the world of Looney Tunes? Would you like to see more from it? Let us know what your ideas are. Or you can find us on social media at Get Your Comic On most platforms, or at Get Your Comic On 1 on X. Or you can find me at Neil Veg and shout at me as most people on social media normally do. Michael, where can everyone find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Digital Spiral.
And Aaron, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on YouTube and TikTok, Aaron at the Movies, and on Instagram and everywhere else at Aaron Azza.
And just a reminder, there is a QR code right here that you can scan right now and go and read Aaron's review of the film that we have just been talking about. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. At the moment, we don't know what we're going to be talking about. It's top secret on the schedule. So we will have to come up with something in the meantime. So for now, stay safe.
That may be the animation one.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll stick with animation. And we will see you next time. Bye.